Hello, welcome to the show. Mike Johnson has just been named the new Speaker of the House. Republicans have finally settled on someone. It is about time. I was about to throw my own name in the ring. I want to be Speaker of the House. I mean, I think they were getting desperate enough that they may have actually considered it. Who is Mike Johnson, though? He's not the most famous Republican in the world. Is he a real conservative? Is he a RINO? Is he somewhere in the middle? Who is this guy? We're going to talk about that. I'm going to give you the inside scoop on Mike Johnson. It's not going to be a long episode by any stretch of the imagination. But before I give you the details on Mike Johnson, who he really is, and what I think is going to be happening with the Republican Party, coming to me straight from insiders who actually know, I just want to give you that call to action. Please subscribe to the channel. If you're new to the channel, you've only seen this episode, or maybe you've seen one other or something like that. It would really help me out if we could help grow this channel. It's brand new. I've been involved in media for many, many years. I've been writing for almost a decade now for Fox News and foxnews.com and Newsweek. And I've been on every big show you can think of, from Tucker Carlson Tonight back when he was still at Fox, to Glenn Beck radio program. And my work's been featured by the White House and Rush Limbaugh and all kinds of incredible people in the conservative movement. But I've never had my own show. So if you can help, it would help me out huge if you could subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave a comment. All of these things are going to help break through those big tech algorithms that hold back conservative content like mine. All right, let's get into the topic. Mike Johnson. Who is Mike Johnson? Who is this guy? This article that's up on the screen, if you're watching the video version of this, 55 things you need to know about Mike Johnson from Politico. I'm not going to read through all of this. It's long, but the article starts off with something I think it's pretty funny. Mike who? Mike who? Who is this guy? Some 3 chaotic weeks after the shocking ouster of Kevin McCarthy, the new Republican Speaker of the House is Mike Johnson, a hard-right legal warrior turned little-known legislator from Louisiana, a deeply religious 51-year-old father of 4 who has been involved in electoral politics for less than 9 years and in Washington for 2 years less than that. A staunch social conservative with a long history of anti-LGBTQ rhetoric. I think they left out some letters and symbols there. He's also managed on Capitol Hill to forge a less fractious persona, an ideological partisan and a Donald Trump ally who founded the so-called Honor and Civility Caucus, pledging that our political rivals in Congress are not our enemies. Boy, that sounds like a real hardline crazy person, doesn't it? He now steps into the spotlight in a seemingly impossible job in a fiercely divided Congress. And then it talks about the government funding thing, government shutdown, and all that stuff that's looming. We don't need to get into the rest of the details. I think you get the way that they set this up. The New York Times had another article sort of posing the Mike Johnson. I don't know, actually. Maybe we could just find this. Here it is. This is from the New York Times. Could Mike Johnson, the new House Speaker, undermine the 2024 election? That's the headline. Unbelievable. The left is losing its mind over Mike Johnson. It's losing its mind over Mike Johnson. So the question is, why? Why are they losing their minds? Is this just them? If you're old enough to remember when Mitt Romney ran for president, you know that the left loses its mind over him too. And said that Mitt Romney was like the second coming of, I don't know. It was like we were heading back to the dark ages because we were electing Mitt Romney. And we all know Mitt Romney is the furthest thing from a real conservative that you're going to find. And yet that's how the left presents it. That's the way they always present it. Right. But Mike Johnson, they seem to be losing their minds over this guy too. Is it because he's a real conservative, or is it because they're just, this is the way the left always characterizes things? Well, I called up a friend who's in the know, who has worked in the past with Mike Johnson, and this person, who I'm not going to give away any details for, but I will just say this: this person is a true conservative, without a doubt, without any doubt, impeccable character. I've worked with this person for a long time. True believer, no doubt about it at all. Absolutely not a RINO. And they gave me the inside scoop, this person, She actually gave me the inside scoop on Mike Johnson and who he is and what he's all about. And let me tell you something. This couldn't possibly have ended better for conservatives based on what I was told. I was told some really incredible stories about Johnson and about the things that he believes and what he stands for. And essentially what I was told is that he is as conservative and as committed to the Constitution as any Republican in the House, period. A lot of Republicans were hoping, of course, a lot of conservative Republicans were hoping that Jim Jordan would be named Speaker. He's a little bit more out there, in the sense that he's out in the media. He's received tons and tons of criticism over the years, been in the spotlight a lot. A lot of the work that he's done, various investigations, and he was heavily involved with the Hillary Clinton investigations. Heavily involved in the more recent scandals, so-called scandals involving Donald Trump. He's been one of the best when it comes to these committee hearings. He's wildly entertaining. He's a great voice for the conservative movement. He has stood up to the Department of Justice numerous times in the past. He continues to stand up against the Department of Justice and a whole bunch of other things. So people really wanted Jim Jordan. I understand that. I talked to this individual about Jim Jordan and sort of the comparison between Jim Jordan and Mike Johnson. And what I was told is that insiders agree. Jim Jordan is basically on the same level as Mike Johnson. Like, Mike Johnson is as conservative as Jim Jordan. He is as committed as Jim Jordan. He's not going to get the same kind of spotlights that Jim Jordan has had, or at least in the past he didn't. He probably will now that he's Speaker of the House, but he is just as committed to the cause as Jim Jordan. So if you're a conservative and you're worried that maybe this guy, it sounds like it's a good pick, but don't be worried. I mean, this looks as good as we possibly could have hoped for. So with all that said, and I think that it's really important. I think all that's wonderful. I think it's important that we have a good conservative Speaker of the House, probably the most conservative Speaker of the House that we've had in many, many, many years. Maybe Newt Gingrich, is the last one. And then Newt Gingrich was the most conservative speaker we had in many decades because Democrats were basically in charge of the House of Representatives for a long, long time before Newt. So the question, any questions about the speaker, the speakership, I think can now be put to rest. If you're a conservative, this was a huge victory. There's just no doubt about it. It could have gone terribly. It didn't seem like there was a plan when Matt Gaetz and company decided to oust Kevin McCarthy. I don't think Kevin McCarthy was doing a particularly bad job or anything like that. I don't think I would have supported throwing him out. But now that he's gone, it worked out. It actually worked out fine for conservatives. And that almost never happens. And I have it on good authority. People who actually know Mike Johnson personally, who have worked with Mike Johnson personally, who know what the real story is with him. And I'm telling you, you can put it in the bank. The guy's a real conservative. Now, with all that said, put all that aside for a second. What does this actually mean? Well, I think let's start with the good. Okay, let's start with the good things about this. One of the main things that the Speaker of the House should be doing at this point in time is investigating all of the scandals with Hunter Biden, investigating the Biden crime family and all of the stuff that's been going on with that. There's so many more rocks that need to be overturned that we need to look under. So much more evidence. Where's the money that we need to show a connection between the money that was being given to the Biden family and Joe Biden himself, because that's the smoking gun connection that's going to cause Biden to get pushed out of office. He deserves to get pushed out of office. He is as corrupt as any president that has ever existed in this history of this country. It is obvious and absurd that he's gotten away with what he's gotten away with so far. We need a Speaker of the House who's going to take that seriously, who's going to investigate seriously. And I think we have that in Mike Johnson. Every indication that I've heard personally is that Mike Johnson is committed to doing that. and to figuring out the truth when it comes to Joe Biden. We're already starting to see some news break that shows that direct connection between all of the millions of dollars that the Biden family received and Joe Biden himself. And so I think in these shady business deals that clearly involved access to Joe Biden while he was serving in government. I mean, it just seems so obvious that was going on. Just recently, there was a report that indicated that Joe Biden had received a $200,000 payment from his brother on the same day that his brother received a $200,000 payment from a failing hospital group that apparently was giving money to Joe Biden's brother. I believe his name is James Biden, in the hopes that they could turn their business fortunes around, that they might get some support or something like that. And so we already see that connection. Now they're going to say that it was because of a loan repayment or something, but that looks really, really suspicious. There's more evidence out there. You know there is. They just got to get access to it. So the speaker has a huge role to play in that. The speaker has a huge role to play in sort of determining which bills make it through committees and which bills come to the floor for a vote. And so I think what we need is a really aggressive speaker who brings bills to the floor, conservative bills, even if he knows they're not going to get passed. Ultimately, it's important to bring the bills to the floor and force people to vote on them. Making committee assignments and things like that are really, really important in Congress. It's how things get done. The speaker has a huge role in that. But really, the most important role for speaker, and I think the biggest plus for having Mike Johnson, is when you have a divided government like we have right now, where you have the speaker of the Republicans controlling the House of Representatives, but Democrats control the Senate and Democrats control the White House. The Speaker of the House is the face of the opposition politically to the White House. And so it's our, president, so to speak. It's our representative, our highest representative for conservatives right now is Mike Johnson. Okay, it was Kevin McCarthy. Now it's Mike Johnson. And having a good face for your ideological movement is absolutely vital. Having somebody who can fight these battles, do it effectively, who can communicate well, who really does believe in the cause, who's not willing to compromise our most important values. Compromise is part of every aspect of being in government. You do have to compromise sometimes, but we should never compromise on our most important values. I think Mike Johnson's going to be a good face for the Republican Party. We'll see. Maybe he won't. Maybe he's going to get pushed around by the Biden administration and the Democrats and the House and the Senate. I don't think that's going to happen, but maybe it will. But I think that's the biggest job for the Speaker of the House. And I think he's going to do a really, really good job at that. So that's the positive side. On the negative side, I've seen some people come out and say, yeah, Mike Johnson this is the greatest thing that's happened in the Republican Party in forever. And while I think it's really good, I think it's important to remember that to a large extent, there is only so much you can do in the House of Representatives. Even if the House of Representatives was run, was 99% Republicans and they were all conservative, there's only so much that they can actually do, because you have to get things through the Senate, and the Senate is much more moderate than the House. The Senate is still run by Democrats, technically. You got a bunch of you've got the sort of RINO Republicans in the Senate have much more power than they do in the House, and that's a huge problem. Democrats are gonna stop any really good legislation from even getting a chance at a floor vote in the Senate whenever they possibly can. Obviously, you have the White House that can kill things as well. So we have to be realistic about Mike Johnson here. The goal for him should not be, or I should say, our expectations for Mike Johnson should not be that he comes in and all of a sudden everything's great from a conservative perspective. That's not what's going to happen. What we should do is expect him to fight for our values, to stand up for what he believes in, to push back against the agenda of the White House, and to be a really good spokesperson for the conservative movement. If that's what he does, that plus investigate key issues, impeach Joe Biden if they can find the evidence that they need to get that done, if he goes in those directions, if he is able to accomplish those things, then I think that's a victory. That's the best that we can hope for. But if you're looking at this and you're saying, well, this is it, this is going to be a huge moment, things are finally going to turn around for Republicans, it's like, nah, I don't think so. I know so. It's not going to happen. The only way Republicans are going to win, or I should say, the only way Republicans are going to get really important legislation passed is if they win overwhelmingly in the next election. And right now, it's looking okay for that, but it's not looking great. Okay. So that's the thing that we need to focus on. That's the thing that we need to pay attention to. It's more about setting the stage for the election. It's more about getting good people in high positions within the Republican Party in the House. It's more about the PR battle with the White House, with Joe Biden, being a good, strong figure and spokesperson for the conservative movement. All that stuff is really important. Mike Johnson can deliver on all of that. I have no doubt whatsoever. But let's not go crazy either. He's not going to transform America overnight. Okay? But before I wrap things up, I just wanted to say, so I am not an optimistic person when it comes to politicians. In my experience, politicians almost always let you down. So when I reached out behind the scenes to find out what the real deal was with Johnson, I was surprised, honestly, to learn just how much confidence a whole bunch of people that I really respect. I wish I could tell you who they are, but I can't, because a lot of this was off the record. But these people are true believers who've devoted their lives to defending individual liberty and rights. They are passionate conservatives, and I think you can take their endorsement of this guy to the bank. Okay. So although they're not going to come on the show and they're going to say it openly, behind the scenes, this is the kind of conversation that's happening with conservatives who are in the know, people who have the political connections. They are really, really excited. I have never seen conservatives more excited about leadership in Congress than they are right now behind the scenes. So this is a huge win for conservatives. So congratulations to Mike Johnson. It's time to get to work. It's time to do your job. It's time to defend individual rights and be a good spokesperson and a responsible and an ethical spokesperson for the conservative cause. And I think, obviously the world is watching. Conservatives need Mike Johnson to be that. And I hope that we're at least moving in the right direction, right? Which is all I think we can ask for. So whatever you think of Matt Gaetz, whatever you think of the stunt that he pulled, whatever you think of getting rid of Kevin McCarthy, and I know people have got all kinds of different opinions about it, you got to say this. It worked out pretty well. At the end of the day, it worked out pretty well. You just got to hand it to him. It worked out pretty well. The plan really couldn't have gone any better than it did. So although I think it was insane what happened, and I wouldn't have done it, I can't help but think, man, it worked out. So what can you say? All right, that's it for today's episode. I told you it was going to be short. I told you I was going to keep it short this time. My name is Justin Haskins. Again, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe so you can get more inside stories like this about what's really going on within the Republican Party and the conservative movement. If you're interested in learning more about the Great Reset and social credit scores and the emerging AI Davos a catastrophe that's developing, I think you could say, the use of emerging technologies to control and transform our lives. If you're interested in the stories that no one is talking about, or very few people are talking about anyway, subscribe to the channel. You're going to get a ton of great content going forward. And again, as I said earlier in the show, I'm going to try, or I think I said it earlier, I'm going to try my best to produce more content. Things have been absolutely crazy lately. Very, very, very busy. Lots of exciting news that I'm going to tell you about at some point in the near future. But anyway, wrapping it up, please subscribe to the channel, share the content, like the video, leave a comment, and connect with me on social media at Justin T. Haskins. Until next time, I'm Justin. Stay free.